Hi friends, Dave Herbert here. You know, I worked at Craft Systems. It was a radio control manufacturing company for many years. And what we did is we designed and customized radios the way people wanted them, including where to put the switches and the kind of control setups they wanted on them. It was pretty good. After Craft went out of business, I got an offer from Joe Breedy, and I worked for him for a while. He had bought the Proline radio series, and I did repair work out of my own shop, which was the International Radio Control Service Center, and that was in San Juan Capistrano, and I repaired radios from everybody all over the United States, Craft and everything. Well, there's some new radios on the market today, and some are coming out asking for some ideas. Well, these are my ideas. It's really old school, but it works better for me, and I'd like to see these changes being made. So let's take a look at some of this stuff on the old Craft transmitter, including cross trims and switch locations and complete ergonomics.
And as far as I'm concerned, I like analog trim levers because you can see the trim at a glance. I'm not very good at Braille, seeing LCDs in the daylight, or counting beeps.
Ergonomics means how easy it is to hold and reach all the controls. I'm just going to talk right now about flying the gimbal. Now, most professional flyers pinch the stick with the left hand. The reason being, this is the tail rotor and throttle stick, and when you're flying, you can't afford to let go of that stick for nothing. And if you're just flying with your thumb, you can't be very accurate, and you can ask all the pros that. So the problem is, though, is when you're flying most of the time. Now, I just got off of flying Aerofly, flying in Tyrol, Italy, on the slopes for over an hour. If you look at that side of my finger, you see it's all red and rough. Why? Well, most of the time I was flying it up here, flying planes, wide open, and my finger is rubbing back and forth because I used the rudder. Well, what happens is right here is a very sharp edge sticking up and another uneven edge right here sticking up. That wears out your finger after a while. On top of that, there's this whole ring around here that sticks up. This isn't very comfortable to run your figure back and forth across at all, especially if you're going to fly it and you're working it up and down and your finger's banging into it. So the thing is, these things should be smooth. They should be easy to run your fingers across. I know they're all pretty and everything, but I think they should be smooth. Let's take a look at another one. Let's go over here and look at this Dynam. Now this is nice and smooth up here, no edges, all very comfortable, except they put this bolt here, this nut sticking up. So when you run your finger back and forth, you're constantly running back and forth on that. So that's not good either. Alright, let's go over here to the Exceed RC. This one's one of the worst of all for ergonomics. Reason being is you've got notches sticking up here and a notch down here. So your finger is not only, it can't slide this way very well without interference, it has to go through this notch up and down. So if you're holding the stick, unless you're holding it up here somehow, and most people rest their finger on the side of that gimbal. So that's unsat. Now, even back in the old days, some of them, here's the Futaba, big ridge around this thing, big wall here, sharp edges on here, sharp edges on here. So when you're running your finger back and forth on this one, you're really sliding your finger up against that tight. And one of the newer radios that works pretty good, is nice and smooth, is the Spectrum DX6i. The gimbal is smooth there, it's natural. When you're up at the top, nothing is actually catching. A little bit this right here, you can feel that, but not bad. Believe it or not, my old Craft transmitter that I built years ago has smooth. We've talked about that before. There's nothing in the way. That's the old school way. And even the, here's another one that's something to look at. This is the Exceed RC. It's got notches here, ridges. It's got sharp edge here, and this is right where your finger works, back and forth. It slides on this stuff, and it eventually wears down. So I'd like to see some little smoother gimbals for anybody who's manufacturing radios. I know it's all a little late now, but so since this is a radio I like to use the most with my Aerofly 5.5, I'm going to take and round these all off, file those down. Okay, that's pretty good. Now I'll just take a very fine file and just make this very smooth here. Now this is for the guys who use helicopters flying a lot of 3D, because you can't let go of this stick, not even move around and reposition it when you're flying. It's very difficult when you're flying helicopter 3D. This one's alright, you can let go of that a few times, but you can't let go of this one.
Okay, let's talk about switch locations. You know, I'd really like to see an international standard voted on by qualified RC modelers to set up switch locations, along with, you know, toggle switch extenders to make the switch you really want to use easier to find.
One of the reasons in the older days on the older radios that we had the trims, cross trims, something you've heard me talk about, is so that when you're flying, you don't have to take your fingers off of the stick whatsoever to reach your trim. Because if you're flying over here and you want to adjust the elevator trim, you don't have to take your hand off of this aileron or elevator, and you can adjust your trim here. Or you can adjust your aileron trim here. This is a whole lot easier than trying to reach around the stick, which normally it's over here for elevator and over here for aileron. If you don't want to take this hand off, if you're flying a contest or something, you can't take your hands off or your fingers off that. Same thing with the left stick. You can move this around, your rudder's over here, and your throttle trim is here. Really nice to be able to get to. The half rate switches make sense when they're full all the way up. That's full rate, half this way, not A or B or on or off. I mean, what are you talking about, guys? And on the top, to me, I think the best switch situation is the way it was on my old JR radio, and that is, you know, landing gear switch over here for helicopters. So you don't have to take your hand off unless you can do this easily like that. I can't. I would much rather be flying a helicopter and reach up and flip this switch. This is the switch that I personally like having the 3D mode in. And still your throttle hold back here, 3D mode here. This side's landing gear, and there should be a knob up here for flaps or here for flaps. Real simple. That's the way I'd like to see the new radios come out. I know there's some new ones coming out. I hope they take heed and especially go with the cross trims.
Well, here's a preview of a new radio that's coming. They're looking for suggestions, so here's your chance. And unless you've never tried cross trims, you'll never know what a good thing that was. I hope to see that programming option on this new radio, and maybe some of my other suggestions too. So if you like these ideas and you like to see them on the radio, you can also get a hold of Xtreme Power Systems and put in your comments and suggestions too. So maybe this sounds like no big deal to you new guys, but to the old guys this was something. And listen, don't knock it if you haven't tried it. Because if it sounds like it's a stupid idea, but it works, it ain't stupid. Check the link out in the description box for more information. And if you like this type of video, please subscribe, and thank you.